I think just in terms of it being able to be sent, I think we're still getting, the stories, even though we do have some latency between us. I'd much rather hear, you tell your story about, your experience so far and getting sort of, as we were talking about, getting from, you as an artist and discovering crypto and your experience with it, because you've really jumped in there, almost, I don't want to say head first, but you certainly have been aggressive in the space.
And you can say that loudly. I mean, I literally went in a half a year. I mean, I knew about it obviously for a long time. Like we back to like I'm like one of those people that keeps beating themselves up over not buying Bitcoin when it first came out, because I did have the opportunity, and that just I was just like, oh, this is like money. I'm not really interested in that. I'm not an accountant. I'm not like an investor. I don't really give a shit. I want to be like creative. And now, of course, it's like, but so I've been following Ethereum and Bitcoin for a long time, but never, it wasn't really basically until the NFT thing hit. And it's actually a filmmaking friend. He pointed me in the right direction, basically. And literally, it's like one of those seminal moments in your life. He told me in the morning at about 11 o'clock in the morning, by 1 o'clock, I was hooked. I had done my basic research. Like I looked at OpenSea. I did like my basic things. I was like, this is so exciting. That's all I've done for the rest of the day. And since then, literally, I basically went from like, okay, let me see what that is in a half a year to basically being full-time. Like, I told you about the possible deal that's in a cart. I mean, this is like, it's a huge thing. Literally in a few months, basically. Just to give you guys an idea still, like on Wax, I got 20,000 NFTs right now. That's a lot of NFTs. I mean, of course, they're not 20,000 individual NFTs. And on Wax, it's great because you just keep pumping out. It doesn't cost you anything. But I'm on 4 other platforms too. And I'm really, at this point, I'm not a super expert, but I've started like coding. I'm coding my own game now, basically. I've been coding my own tokens. So it's like literally like stuff that I never thought I was going to be able to do. It just opened up this whole floodgate of things, basically. When I was 14, I was like in pre-university school. I started printing my own magazines and selling them and basically making money. So I was basically in business when I was 14. Then I was scaling up, making my own fanzines, winning prizes and all kinds of stuff until Switzerland became too small. I moved to New Jersey, started working for Marvel Comics, DC Comics, Image, just about everybody you can imagine. And then got tired of the comic book industry. We had a huge collapse in '96 that pretty much wiped out about 50% of everything. And it has never been the same since then. So I started doing advertisement, moved back to Switzerland in 2008, created my own graphic novel company, 2 actually. One was more like traditional Swiss legend stuff, and the other one was more like the freewheeling French bande dessinée, like the auteur, type of thing, which didn't go so well, unfortunately. Because the problem really is like bookstores, it's the pits, I mean, it's the end. So the whole traditional kind of thing, that was just kind of over with. And, of course, now with the whole crypto thing, that's like a total new shift basically for a creator,
And you started with Kaos Moon there, yes? In crypto, you started with Kaos Moon, and
Kaos Moon I started in the States. Kaos Moon came to. Yes, that was my first thing because I needed something that I had a lot of material. And Kaos Moon, I had about 200 comic book pages, tons of graphics and this and that, a very, very, refined backstory already. So basically I created like this game type of thing around it. And literally like people really took to it, like right from the start. I mean, so how I started out was like, I'm going to start out with 8 or 10, maybe 10 different cards, single cards, nonetheless, no packs or anything crazy, because I didn't know how to do that. Yeah, I struggled even to do those basically initially. And I just did that. And the one thing that I've done, basically, the moment was that Wax had the Street Fighter NFT collection shortly before I did it. And Street Fighter is very popular. So naturally, people were talking about it. And one thing that people complained about the Street Fighter cards were that they were shittily done. Basically, they were like, a typical thing would be like, you have a person and a really crappy not even like After Effects type of effects, like just a little motion graphic effect, but really not well done. And I'm like, you know what? I've been working with After Effects for 20 years. I can do it much, much better, basically. So I figured, okay, I'm going to take that concept. I'm going to make him animated. And you can also animate, upload and wax animated GIFs. You know, you can actually, as a matter of fact, you can also upload MP4s, but that was at the time a little trickier. And but the GIFs worked fine. I was able to get him in under 2 megabytes, which was really, really hard because GIFs are very large in file size, you know, comparatively speaking. So you have a 3-second loop. You get it in under 2. You really, really, really have to push hard to make sure it still looks good. It doesn't, you know, before banding appears, you know. But I was able to do that basically, and I've chosen some really nice pieces of art. Did some really nice motion graphics effects and type of stuff, and everybody's like, "Wow, what is that?" You know, like it was some kind of a revelation. That's one thing I like about the crypto thing. Every time somebody comes up with something sort of borderline innovative, you know, that you haven't seen yet, it's like, "Oh, this is the first time we've seen this." You know, a comic book on wax, impossible. Who thought of comic books on like as an NFT? You know, I mean, so it's kind of like that's kind of like what I like about this whole NFT crypto thing. It's so this moment of discovery. I kind of missed that, like in a comic books and animation world. You know, it's sort of, it all has been done. You know, and it's kind of like you can't really excite people anymore. The quality of the stuff is so high, like especially in comic books. I mean, the level of quality is so high. In order to trump that or even put anything new out there, it's practically impossible. And that's what I like about the NFT stuff. It's sort of like you have like this way of mixing stuff. And, you know, I mean, if I think about what I thought 3 months ago compared to what I think now, in terms of when I was putting the Sky Gods project together, for example, what the possibilities could be with a big company backing it and the devs actually that know what they're doing, working on it. I mean, this is a tremendous opportunity to create metaverses, you know, especially because it's a science fiction property. You have the whole universe open to you, basically.
How are you approaching roadmaps, you know, when it
So,
comes to doing drops and then, you know, delivering on, you know, partnering with metaverses? Because I think that's the new hot thing is to, you know, partner with Sandbox or whoever to bring your property, bring your following into their space. They want it and they want it bad. And so they're making offers to people just like you who have some success in the space into bringing those people to that metaverse. And so does that automatically become part of your roadmap now?
no. I'm going to try to really do everything sort of like proprietary. You know, I'm not going to team up with anything or anybody basically, unless it's like, you know, obviously in the case of, I don't want to mention the name, you know who I'm talking about, the big P.
Yeah.
It's or like any other chain that will be comparable, you know, Polkadot or Polygon, we don't know, you know, but any compare. I mean, it literally for me, from my concept right now, it's like any chain will potentially be interested in this basically because it's got the science fiction element, it's got the anime element which nobody has done, but you know, it's got the transmedia element which people are reacting very strongly to, which in crypto nobody has done really. You know, they're all like, that's a problem with crypto games is basically, I mean, if you look at some of the bigger play to earn games like Axie Infinity or Crypto Blades or some of those games that are really, really hot right now, they're very visually weak. You know, Alien Worlds, for example, or even worse, Our Planet, tremendously weak visually, basically. You're very much relying on sort of like technical gimmicks and knickknacks, you know, which quite frankly, already I see people really getting tired of it. You know, like staking is fun for 5 minutes, but once you see your ticket go up every day and I've made a couple more bucks or like whatever, you know, it's like those people who watch PancakeSwap every day or like Uniswap or whatever. There's only so much fun to be had there unless you're a super whale and you're making big money.
It's true. It's
and
like you get that sort of that desire to. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I mean, like a good example I really want to highlight, like Crypto Blades. You know, you look at their websites, it's beautiful illustration, and then you enter the game, and it's sort of like, oh, let the battle commence, and then you have like 2 characters there, and then nothing happens, and all of a sudden the thing blinks up and says you won. I'm like, okay, now what?
I love that you have found a way to be
So my idea,
interacting with the seemingly the chains themselves, and we won't mention the chains, but how did you approach taking your success in Chaos Moon and Wax, and then connecting with other chains as part of a sort of almost a B2B, like, hey, I want to make this project, here it is, and I want to do it on your chain.
I did not. They all found me. I haven't written to anybody. They all found me. Every single chain I've talked to, and I've talked to several of the big ones so far, they all found me basically because I've been featured, especially because it is so different what I'm doing. I'm not an artiste. I'm not a people type of guy. Because let's be honest, nothing against the artiste, but there's a bazillion of them. You go like on any of those ETH platforms basically, and a lot of them are capable. Some is high school amateur art. A lot of it is capable, but it is just we've seen a million times a floating skull or like some kind of angel with clipped wings or whatever deep meaning people have. It's just it is just what it is. It's not conceptually strong as a whole thing, and my stuff is conceptually very strong because I've been working on it for so long. So people they get that they see the comments on like social media. And the problem that Wax has not really been too helpful with that because Wax doesn't have, how should I say this? It's a great chain, but if you go to a guy who deals with ETH and you say, oh, I had something Wax, it means nothing to them. It's meaningless to them. Even if Atomic Club is in the top 10 marketplaces, even if they're making all the big brands are going there, they don't have the cachet that like Foundation has, for example, or like certain OpenSeas or Rarible or any of those places, because Wax is very much geared towards low cost multiple NFTs. I think they have like 30 million NFTs on their platform. You got to think about this: 30 million.
20 million of those are garbage
so
pail
much
kids.
more than anybody else has.
So there's a lot.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of
really
artists
been too
that are like us, in a sense, that have, and like yourself, that have, especially part of our community that we formed on Facebook, that are artists that already have, a catalog. Maybe they have a web series. Maybe they have, art that they've done. Maybe they have music. I mean, we have some great composers who are on our group, and people have a lot of good short form stuff as artists that they've been building, like yourself, over the course of their career. How would you advise them to begin to start minting? Where would you go, knowing what you know now?
That is, I get to ask that question. I mean, my answer basically would be where not to go first. And as you probably noticed, there is a ton, I'm going to even say a shit ton of new NFT marketplaces coming up every day. Now, especially on a Binance chain market, I mean, there's like a bazillion on there. And there's a lot of them who made a big stink. Like for example, I'll give you one example. That's sort of like something we should also discuss, which I really want to get into, is the whole tokenomics token situation. Because we've mentioned that on site a couple times in the group, and there's one example of the group that we mentioned that was a little bit discussed that is actually in free fall right now. And another website, a marketplace, it's called NFT Art Finance. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I have not. So I guess, in terms of you're talking about the tokenomics of the NFT. What is it that you mean?
No, basically, the thing is that more and more marketplaces started being linked up with tokenomics. Like a good example would be NFT Art Finance, that actually issued a token before they actually launched the marketplace, which is kind of ass backwards if you really think about it. You should have the product first and then issue a token as a utility token, which is what it should be, But of course, a lot of people see the tokenomics or the token channel as a sort of a crowdsourcing, which it could be, But it's a very tricky and very dangerous road to go down to. You have to really know what you're doing. Otherwise, you might possibly sink your project. And NFT Art Finance, because I just got an email from another like NFT minter, and he just asked me, should I mint on there? And I advised him not to, because if you look at their chart, for example, the token is completely flat. And you look at the prices too on their marketplace. if you want to get any kind of decent price, you have to go where prices are being paid, because every marketplace is flooded at this point. There's very few marketplaces that they're sort of like where it's easy to make money. I would say Ghost Market is probably one of the best and still easiest way to make a splash. But they're as a matter of fact, I would say go on DApp Radar, look under NFTs and then marketplaces and see how much turnaround every marketplace has. I find that good barometer basically, because you can really see how much money there's actually being made. And I'll tell you, the difference is staggering, literally. I mean, OpenSea makes in a 24-hour period millions. But then you go down the list, and at the time you end up at Ghost Market at place 15 or 20, you end up with like, a few $100. I mean, literally a few $100 in a 24-hour period. That is not very encouraging.
Well, I think us as creators, we always know that, when it comes to a marketplace, we have to sort of create our own buzz, create our own ability to stand out in that marketplace. And so I think, as even if we're going at and looking at OpenSeas and all the projects that are going there, like Animetis or Vogu or any of the hot sort of avatar projects, they start in social media. They start building and getting to know people in the community. And so it's a campaign really just to get to the marketplace. And so where do creators begin with those campaigns?
Absolutely. No, that's absolutely. But before that, the first step has to be a conceptual step. You have to think about like all aspects of what you're actually going to put out. I always laugh on Facebook. I'm part of some other groups, and there's like a guy, he uploads one NFT on OpenSea, and then like 3 months later he hasn't sold it, and he only wants like $10 or something like that. And he's like, if you just upload one random piece of music or one random piece of art or whatever, nobody's going to notice because there's millions of them. But if you come up, that's why all my NFTs always have been conceptual from the beginning, and every single one, I haven't sold out of everything, but I mean, like on Wax, about a third of those 20,000 have been sold, and that's quite good considering I have not made any advertisement and I haven't really, it's just grassroots type of thing. So the idea is really think about what's the bigger picture. What do you want to like tell people? Do you have a name for your collection? Do you have like if I would ask you to create an avatar like or a profile picture for your collection, would you have one? What's the collection about? Do you have a text, a description that's interesting and different? And generally, how are you different from everything else, and so on and so on. So once you start with that, of course, you can start, on social media. You can start building up a following there, like you would for any other project. Just be aware that you should be focusing on stuff that actually deals with crypto people. So that would be Twitter, Telegram, Discord. Forget about Facebook, forget about everything else. Facebook is absolutely meaningless in the grand scheme. Really, really important is Twitter, because Twitter, really, you also have to retweet thing. And then you got to think of like, okay, good. If I really want to sell something, really want to build up a following, how can I, for example, make giveaways? Maybe I'll mint one NFT that's just going to be a giveaway NFT. And believe it or not, people will come to you. They'll flock to you like flies to, what. The giveaways are in crypto. You even see more with tokens, airdrops. And I mean, of course, that's another, that's a little dangerous, because you got to be careful what people are saying.
Well, this is a great conversation for again the nascent creator who's they have some stuff maybe and they're trying to understand like how to put it onto a market, and so they have some stuff, and so they're going to go on Twitter and they're going to create its own account and start to friend others within the space. And when it comes to a certain point, they're going to say, hey, I'd like to share a piece. I'm gonna drop or give away a piece, an NFT, on this date, and just to build up a little bit of excitement, if you will, as you said. And then the actuation of that it's as simple as you just sharing the address, their wallet address, and then sending it, right?
Only works with everything but Ethereum, of course, because you can't make a giveaway on the Ethereum platform. It's just not happening. It's impossible, unless you're rich, and everybody else is rich too, because it's going to cost everybody who wants to interact with you a bundle, So, but the thing is, like on OpenSea, for example, there's lots of other chains you can be like again, Polygon, for example, is like, really, really big and on OpenSea, and
they just got listed on Coinbase, or not? They just got.
You can even trade.
They're going to be on Coinbase as an actuation.
Binance,
and Binance as well. Wow.
Binance. Yeah. Actually, that happened 2 or 3 days ago. There, you can actually directly trade the token on Binance. Basically, you don't even have to go through the middle steps anymore. That's pretty awesome, because setting up Polygon in your MetaMask is not as easy as setting up Binance MetaMask, because you have the Polygon thing and you have the Polygon bridge, and the difference. Basically, it's the same thing as like with the BEP2 token, the BEP20 token. When you send the BEP2 token to a BEP20 address, it's gone. As a matter of fact, I just rocked myself a couple of weeks ago that way. I wasn't paying attention and sent some BEP token to my Ethereum address.
Oh, the nightmare.
Sad thing is, I know it actually arrived and it's there because it's essentially the same chain, but I can't get to it. But that's a different subject matter. Yeah, really, the key thing it really is how strong are you conceptually, basically? How interesting are you and how different are you? None of the rules have changed. I mean, the rules are still the same as if you will make a movie or a comic book or any other product in the real world, basically. It's just that even although it may seem that the marketplaces are full, there's still a hell lot less competition in crypto than there is in the rest of the world.
You get to stand out as somebody who's a quote unquote pioneer within the space, even though you're bringing things that you've worked on, in other areas. If you just think about, as you say, conceptually bringing, value, bringing utility to your NFT. And if you can think out that roadmap, I think it's a very exciting time. And that's kind of, why I love talking to people like you. And I hope, again, this is just a small start in terms of conversations that we can have, throughout your journey as you work on, your exciting projects. And hopefully I'll be able to get more people, in our group to chat about their experience and how they're approaching it. And we can all learn, because I think that's, as you said, when you do something unique in crypto that, you already have the skills for, and you're just combining them into a concept that is fun, that is interesting, that has narrative quality. I think that's exciting, and we as creators are bringing,
it's extremely exciting.
Narrative value to the space. And I think that's, super interesting to me, because, as you said, there's some people who can sit there and look at their DeFi and sort of watch, Uniswap, for a couple hours, but just like, how happy does that make you? That, it's just like, but when I, get an NFT and like I get a drop, and then, I get to play a game with that, with the drop now, that's fun. You're gamifying this experience in the structure
Correct.
of narrative and art that is very exciting. And so yes, thank you again for taking the time. I know it's late there out there in Switzerland, and but yeah, like I said, I hope that this is part of. I guess for an artist, you're probably up to like 3 a.m.
Like, for example, I had to laugh at the blazed cats. Within 24 hours, they put out this project with blazed cats as opposed to stoner cats.
And they got a lot of people.
They got a lot of people.
Yeah, I see a lot of people buying those.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, of course. I'm much rather buy a blazed cat than a stoner cat. I mean, considering how messed up that whole drop was.
It was a messed up drop, but I have to say,
yeah. But I wish
they did. Ashton tweeted that he's going to repay everybody's lost gas fees, which I thought was quite admirable, because that was huge. When you're dealing with gas wars, and I did some videos.
When did you hear that?
It was just a Twitter drop in the Discord. They were talking about it, because I was following Stoner Cats very carefully. I didn't buy because I didn't feel the art or the project was super exciting to me personally. But I love Ashton, and I love Mila, and I think that they brought together a really nice project that, in the same sense that that you did. It was something that was old that they were working on that they just couldn't get traction on, because there's a very limited marketplace having an adult animated series. And they said, well, blockchain. This is, this is what this is for, right? And so, they said, okay, great, we'll try it, this way. And to their credit, they raised $8 million, to create a pilot, to create, maybe a couple episodes of this thing. And, it might go on to sell. Whether they share those riches within the community, I think is actually a good test case, and is actually very likely, given, their credibility, honestly. Is Ashton is just very, like, if he feels like he's done something wrong, that dude makes it right. Like, he's like everyone's complaining about losing gas. That's kind of like how the world is. Like, and so grow up. If you're going to try and get part of a drop and part of a mint, or sorry, part of a mint, you have to expect. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's I get that. That's called professional risk, but there were serious issues with the contract. You cannot neglect that. They took a shitty contract that was coded by somebody who had previous problems, and considering that Vitalik was basically just sitting there on a couch, he couldn't have looked at this, and like Vitalik would have figured this out in 2 seconds.
If only they were using real Vitalik and not just his voice.